Anybody heard from Christy?
She just said she's gonna be late.
Okay.
Yeah.
She is gonna.
But Jim dropped out.
Yeah, Jim dropped out.
Yeah. But other than that, everybody's still here. So.
Yay. I saw him outside. He said, Dave, yeah, you guys have fun with that, man. I'm sorry. I missed one and then missed another, got behind too bad, got so much stuff. I said, man, I missed one and
He's one of the busiest people I've ever met in my life.
Really?
He really is. He's always doing something.
Does his wife work at Humane or volunteer at Humane Society?
I think
Yeah,
so.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, he's part of, with John Grinley and Coab, so yeah.
Yeah. He does that. He does this. He's on like every other board in town, and when he's out doing that stuff, he's playing in his band. So he's a bass guitarist.
Slapping
so,
the bass.
Yeah, he's a very freaking good bass guitarist too. It's kind of scary. That's where he
All
makes
right.
his real money.
That's right.
Yeah. Bass guitar.
Playing in band.
Do you want to go over
Um,
the homework first? You
yeah,
wanna-
we can go over some of the homework first. You want
So we noticed a couple things in y'all's homework, and
Yeah, just some real standout things that
we're gonna have to
really
pick
under
on.
no circumstances would work.
We're gonna have to pick on y'all individually, just because that's just how it goes. So
We're not trying to. It's just that there's no way for us to hide whose it is on
Yeah.
screen. So, but it's nothing that everybody in here hasn't done at one point or another. It's just things that we want to make sure you understand. Hey, this will not work at all. This right here is a big example of one. So when you've got a class, okay, this is a pretty well structured class, right down to the end pretty much. I like it. Oh, I like it. This is cool. Oh God, I had too much coffee. Oh Jesus.
I'm gonna eat some if you get to make some.
Oh, I think did you make a pot?
Thought you did.
No.
All right, we'll fix that during the break. So, all right, right here, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this block by itself. Okay, bunch of accounts being newed up. The parameters, there's one-for-one parameters, but this is in the middle of a class declaration. Okay, so you will never be able to use those instantiated objects the way you think you want to. All right. What these actually turn into is something we haven't really discussed because I don't want y'all to design applications this way. They turn into static properties. Okay, and those can be dangerous to your application because they don't do what you expect them to when you're dealing with an instance-based object-oriented application. So anybody want to venture a guess what this actually will do to the account class when you new it up?
Like a variable? No.
If you tried to call it?
If you set account.new
No.
somewhere in your application,
Like in the main application? Or
Sure.
the driver file?
sure,
No.
You wouldn't run it that way.
that single account would have 6 accounts
Mm.
strapped to it.
Oh.
So the account has accounts strapped to it?
But here's the weird part. If you set a second time account.new, you made a second account in your main file, your driver file. Same exact way. It would have the same 6 accounts strapped to it. That's not the way. That's not object oriented at all. I mean, those are static properties at that point. So this shouldn't probably happen anywhere in an object-oriented application in Ruby. The other thing with this one, and this is one I saw a lot of y'all do, okay? Inside of the initialize here, okay, this is a well-formed initialize method. but a list of accounts, an array of accounts of some sort, okay? Why does the account class, why does an account have to be responsible for a lot of itself, many itselves? Okay? An account shouldn't have a list of accounts. The bank teller should have access to many accounts, but a single account shouldn't have a list of accounts, right?
Right.
The way David worded this before class when he was going through this issue is he was trying to imagine, okay, what responsibilities does a single account have? Okay? Well, we line those out pretty well right here. You can deposit, you can check the balance, stuff like that. We have those methods in place. A single account shouldn't have to know how to manage a list of other accounts. Something has to, but not a single account. The second thing in this initializer is this balance right here. It's not being assigned anywhere, is it?
No, it's not really. It's not.
So- So it's a required parameter.
Yes.
Nothing's breaking here at all. Nothing breaks, right? As long as you instantiate it with a 500, 1,000, 300, 800, 1,200, 100, whatever, inside your main file. Or you give it a 0 if you want to start with a balance of 0. But what's the problem? I'm not assigning that to my at balance, right? So this balance isn't 0. It's not 500, it's nil. Your balance is always going to start as nil with that account object, correct? Okay. So those were some of the issues that we saw in several people's homeworks. I just wanted to reiterate over that, and we're going to go back over some of these concepts again.
Yeah, throw me under the bus.
Hang on. Let's look at
We're all
David.
under the
I didn't even. Yeah. Let me push mine up real quick. Why don't you go somewhere
No,
else?
you pushed yours up. Here's another one. So,
This is.
oh, I like that. What did I just do? Oh, hey, that was nice. Oh,
Oh, wow.
oh, that's much better.
Smack.
All right, I can do tricks too, John.
That's cool, man.
That's right.
Could probably read that thing now.
I was probably gonna burn off my own class now. So, right here, we have an account. We're taking in an owner name, a balance, and an account number. 3 parameters, right? Okay. Is this gonna work, that line right there? Owner name equals first name, comma, last name? Why isn't that gonna work?
Because those first name and last name, they're like undefined variables.
Right, they don't exist anymore, right? So, as soon as someone tries to open an account, that guy's gonna blow up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so what should that have been set equal to?
Owner name.
Yeah.
That owner name, right? Okay.
I should have updated my file.
What about the balance right here? What's wrong with that one?
It's not reflecting the balance in the.
Well, where's the starting amount?
Where's the starting amount? Okay, it's not that guy. Now, even if we change this to be starting amount right here, what's the problem then?
It's setting it equal to 0.
Does plus equals 0 do anything in this kind? Does adding 0 to anything do anything? Not really. So my only assumption is that they were trying to say, okay, well, if it doesn't exist, set it equal to 0, right? Is plus equal the way to do that? How do you do that?
Equal.
No, that's
Oh, that's comparison.
Just equal, right? Where do I put the equal 0 at? Do I put it right here? If this said balance equals 0, that wouldn't work, right?
No, because it'll just have a method.
So it set balance equaling 0 is a default, right? Where do we put default parameters? At the last what?
And initialize order up there.
In this right here. So balance should go on this side of account number, set equal to 0. Okay? And then that goes away. Alright? Now what's wrong with this line? Okay? I don't expect anyone to read this and understand what this does. I'll tell you right quick. Well, it's not being used correctly though. So if you cut the dot right here just before this R on rand, erase everything before it. Rand 10 by 10 dot 2s dot rjust 10 0. Okay? What that means is I'm going to generate a 10-digit exponential number. I'm going to turn it to a string, and then I'm going to right justify it by 10 characters with the string 0. So
I read that.
if it was like, if the number that got generated was, let's say 500, okay, it'd end up being 500 with 7 zeros on the left in a string. That's all that did for you. Oh God, John Macy. There you go. See how it has the leading 0? That's what this right justify did. Okay. So, does it make sense to call account number dot rand yada yada yada? Rand is a function, right? Rand is a global function. It's not a function it's not a method we're executing on an object, correct? So we don't need account number dot. We just would need add account number equals rand 10 by 10 2s yada yada yada. Okay? Also, let's say that was the case. Alright? Let's say that this account number dot was not here. Okay? Would passing an account number here do anything for the application at that point?
Because you're just randomizing an input.
Even if you set on the line above this, even if you set account number equals account number up here, and then you set add account number equals rand 10 by 10, so you just set it equal to something and then overwrote it. Or if the lines were the other way around, you just randomized it and then you overwrote it.
So they could kind of conflict at the end.
Yeah. So the account number should probably be randomly generated always. So I would take the account number out of the initializer there, and I would just always randomly generate one. Okay? Next thing. Okay? This method right here.
That's why I thought y'all wanted us to use a name.
Okay.
Get a name.
So,
Not self-generate.
owner name. Alright? What is the owner name? It's the owner of the account, correct? The owner's name. Could have been first name, could have been first and last, whatever. Could have been an alias. What does gets do?
It,
It's just strings. It gets
From
an
where?
input from the user.
From the person at the terminal, right?
Yes.
Okay. What does passing owner name in parentheses do?
Not sure.
Creates explosions.
I didn't know either.
It doesn't do anything. That's called a syntax error. Okay? So I get where the mindset was. The mindset was I have an account. I'm going to ask the user for their name on this account, correct? But should an account be responsible for asking the user its name?
No. That's the.
Right. So this shouldn't be here. Even if we did say, okay, get the user's name for every account in the system, and they make up names or something like that, this would not be the place to do it. Okay? So when we return the name, okay, we wouldn't want to say puts, we wouldn't want to call get name or anything like that. We would just return what the owner name is. Right? Someone wanted to know the owner name. Okay, would you scroll down? No, back up. Right there. Okay. Should an account be responsible for running a menu?
No.
No, that's a menu thing.
Okay.
It was fun, it worked.
Well,
It would have blown up later, but it worked.
it would have blown up good. Yeah, all basically everything after this point. And you did correct. By the way, he did go back and correct this. I saw a more recent copy of his homework. All of this should be in the bank teller, because the bank teller is it's our engine. It's what's running the application correct. It should be responsible for displaying menus. It should be responsible for looping. It should be responsible for printing things to the console. Okay.
But we didn't need a second loop.
We didn't need a second loop, but there's nothing wrong with the second loop. You just didn't need one. Okay. Now there can be, so let me go on record, there can be things wrong with second loops. Okay? Because, well, we're not gonna talk about big O notation, but
Second loops and loops within loops.
loops within loops. Sometimes you cannot get around that. Sometimes you can't. There are just some problems you can't solve without it. But if you start seeing yourself going, okay, well, I've got a loop. That's got a loop in it. That's got a loop in it. That's got a loop in it. All right, I can't think of another way to solve this problem. I guarantee you did something wrong. Not really wrong, but poor design probably. Think of it. Think from a different perspective. Try to abstract something out that can be reused somewhere.
I did that really bad on the previous attempt at this. I think I had like a loop within a loop within a loop.
Yeah. And this
That's where I was
problem,
going with it. So
the example you'll see of mine is one loop, okay? And the entire application is about 150 lines of code. So it's, and that's written procedurally so that it's all in one class, kind of like the way we told y'all to do it, put everything in your bank teller. If I refactor it, and then we might do this as a later exercise to where it's more object oriented than this, it gets down to about 75 lines. So
Did you turn something?
anyway, where did our John go?
You can look at Jim Coffee.
Saw a shadow.
Hello.
Hola.
Was there any other spots on stuff that we needed to go over?
Did anyone else push their homework up?
I just did.
Nobody's gonna.
Let's take a look at yours.
I think.
Man,
I
so
tend
close.
to have issues.
So close.
I don't have any followers.
No, but like I said, everybody had trouble with this assignment, so we might have jumped the gun on something a little bit too much. All right, so before you go down any, see this right here?
You're doing the same thing.
See this?
Oh yeah, I
You
Not-
you fixed it in your
not
test file, right?
I did fix it.
Yeah.
Okay. This though, the starting amount right here, that's correct. Starting amount equals 0. So if someone said account.new with a name and account number and stuff like that, if they didn't provide a starting amount, it would be set to 0. If they did, it would use whatever they passed. Okay? Did you mess up that file anywhere else?
Probably.
Just mess up it.
Let me go through it. See if I can.
Okay, right here, very bottom. All right, this is a method outside of that class. That works. That is a possibility. You can have what's called static functions. Gets is one, puts is one, rand is one. Having this here means they can just be executed. You don't have to know up a class or anything like that. Okay? But this doesn't really make contextual sense right here, right? Mount input in an account file. So it probably should be somewhere else. We probably should be asking the user for input outside of an account file.
Dissect that bad boy.
Dissect it.
Mm-hmm.
I did change that recently. I think.
That actually looks correct to me.
Oh, sorry, I read it wrong. I thought he was setting his balance.
No.
No.
That's
No, I didn't.
yeah, that's
Good.
correct. We can
It's
dissect.
two
We can
rates.
dissect it though.
No, no.
No.
Go to the main. class.
Keep going.
Go to
Okay.
the main. All right. See, this is a problem. All right.
Disappointed.
What do I mean by this is a problem?
He doesn't have anything in there.
Where's your test code?
You can't run a
You
program.
can't run to see if what you're writing is correct without something to run, right?
It's in test.
With this new iteration of this problem, I did do the step-by-step approach where it's like you test every little thing.
Did it help?
It did. So because I was able to.
Because once you know something's working, you know it's working. You
Yeah.
can move on.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want to go ahead and let's go over that, or do you want to do the review and then go over that, or?
Yeah, let's. While we're on this topic, we might as well show them the solution.
Okay.
Dave, you push that up anywhere?
Ooh, no, I didn't. I will though. I don't remember which one it was. Oh wait, yeah, you've got this guy because you did it the other day, I think. Didn't we run it in class or something?
Account? Bank teller?
Yeah, to show them that it was working and stuff like that. Maybe it was in class 6.
There was a little bit last week.
I didn't write it.
You said, I can't show you the code.
Yeah, I didn't show you the code, but I had to have it on here to run it.
You emailed it to him or something, I think to yourself.
Did it get deleted or something?
No, it should still be in there.
No idea where I would
Here,
have
look,
put it.
look over here. It'll probably be easier.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what I called it. Let's see, cracking the code. Exercises. Let's see, maybe it was in nope, wasn't in classwork.
There's some stuff I hadn't pushed up under exercises. It could be in there. Or it might be under assignments.
Oops.
Your branch is up to date with your origin master.
I'm sure voiceover worked.
That might have been the greatest thing ever.
That's what if Nick's web page could talk, that's what it would sound like.
It would.
Is
I was
this?
gonna do a hyperlink.
This looks like.
I don't know.
How do I get that? Well, where's that at? Documents.
Code.
Was it, cause.
Oh wait, hold on.
I don't know.
You already had code.
Yeah, documents,
It's going through
code,
the
Cohab.
thing was like very.
Cracking
It's a lot more
code.
straightforward than
Code.
really conceptual. Yeah.
Exercises, class 5.
I wanted to feel like I was accomplishing something.
That's what I thought the day last night.
Yeah.
No,
That's,
that was the start, wasn't it? Okay.
Hey, right when I got your message back from you, I go straight back.
Okay. Well,
You
why,
weren't just
why don't I
just
just
push
give you
yours
a,
up.
Think about
you
it.
know,
Oh, shit. I usually check this reference.
this will be quicker.
That's what helped me with this one was both.
'Cause they're gonna need it.
Because I did make the same mistake with class inheritance.
Now, do you want to push it up on
Yeah,
the
well,
slide?
You don't
or-
have to.
no.
Like,
Repo?
Classes
Add it
don't
to
have to get
our,
other classes
our
unless,
class
you know,
repo
they need to.
under homework.
You can just use the required, like,
Shares toothbrush. John shares toothbrushes.
Here, I'll do that in a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and
We can do the toothbrush.
I want to see what Brandon glitter is.
That was an office prank.
Oh.
It's probably not safe for
Is
work.
someone
or
get
class.
glitter bomb?
God.
Yeah.
time somebody tells you you need a new toothbrush, that might be a little scary.
How much?
$10 million or something.
In a day?
What is?
Super Meat Boy or
Maybe in the first week or something.
Yeah.
That it was released.
Flappy
It's
Bird
fun,
was the
man.
more amazing success.
It was like,
That was just like really like the most like basic
there's a
game you could
Netflix
think of, and it
documentary
just
about
what helped that game was like more the Let's Players online and stuff, because that's a thing now. Those help could help popularize really obscure like some games like that.
This guy spent like
Indie
a
Jones
year or two
has
developing it,
thanks to
and
the
then
YouTube.
he sold it for $10.
Related
And they sold like
That's
100,000 copies.
All right.
I can't watch other people play games.
It's new media.
It wasn't him?
I mean, it helps you get
But he
into
made-
games that
He made like $10 million.
all people just kind of sit there and that's all they do for a living. Just sit there and play video games. They're just fun stuff to do it.
Well, they also have each other for themselves and edit their videos
Oh,
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you meant he sold it to
No,
someone.
no, no,
Yeah,
no,
there's
no,
some other
no.
things.
No, it costs
Building up their network people.
All right, guys. So
Flappy Bird.
here's the code. So we'll go over this, and I'm just gonna leave it up in the repository. I'm gonna pull it down unless I need to in a minute. But let's start in our main file. Okay. So all I did in here was I required my dependencies. I required the bank teller and the account, correct? And then I made an array with 2 accounts in it, one for myself, one for John, and it gave us both some starting money. I instantiated my bank teller, which took in the list of default or starting accounts. I named it a variable called menu, and I said the menu needs to run. That's all I did here. So let's look at the account. This I think we gave most people to start with. So in mine, that's not mine. I take in an owner name and a starting balance as a parameter with a default parameter of 0. You'll notice this is the proper way to use the RAND. Okay, the snip of code. I'm not calling it on an account number or anything. So I'm assigning it to my instance variable account number. So I don't have to take something in as a parameter and initialize to run it as a line of code. I set my starting balance. I think everything else here is the default that we distributed. Maybe with the exception of this method right here called short description. Short description is a method that I put together very, very quickly just to say, okay, well, I want to be able to dump out in a single string, okay, some user-friendly, readable information about this account. So I give back the account number and the owner name and then the balance. Okay. You will see that this being called in our other file. So that's really all there is to the account. The bank teller is where I think everybody had trouble, and this is where a lot of people seem to get a little bit confused, but I wasn't lying. I mean, 152 lines. So up here, this was not required. You could have started without any accounts. You didn't have to have accounts as a parameter in your initialize, but I did so that I could pass in those starting accounts from my main driver class. Okay. I assign them here as an instance variable. Everybody seemed to have a firm grasp of the running flag. You know, when to toggle it and stuff like that. That was good to see. So I have a run method here. Okay. The first thing I do is when that's called, I set running true, and I say while I'm running, just keep doing this. So the entire application lives within this loop pretty much. Okay. What happens when that loop ends? So running somehow is false. so this loop doesn't occur again, I say, thanks for banking with us, have a nice day, the application ends. All right? So I have a method, print main menu. Very simple. It's down here at the bottom. All I do is I printed a bunch of things to the console. That was basically my menu, right? I did include an exit down here as 0. All right? Very uninteresting method. Here's where the interesting part comes in. This basically runs my entire application. All right? That is 2 methods working in conjunction with one another. All right? I could have put that on multiple lines. Didn't really feel the need to. Someone want to tell me what that does?
It performs main menu action and prompts for selection.
Okay. Now explain it to me.
Well, whatever
There's no trick. There's no trick to that question. Okay.
Whatever your main menu action is.
Okay, and I'm prompting for the selection, right? So prompt for selection is actually going to be run first. Evaluated,
Because it was last.
and the value of it is going to be passed in as a parameter to perform main menu action.
And you just put them on the line like that.
And just put them on the line. I could have on the line just above that made one in between print main menu and perform main menu action, and said selection equals prompt for selection, and then passed selection into perform main menu action.
So on a line like that, the last thing is what gets run or returned, whatever.
In the prompt for selection method, yes. So this is my prompt for selection method right here. That's this guy. Okay? So I'm prompting for a selection. I print out, please enter a selection, and I say get user integer, which is yet another method that's calls get user input, turns it to an integer. You can see that's basically just a wrapper that cleans up my user input. Okay, so I'm basically just daisy chaining these methods together through helper methods. Makes things pretty clean. So at the end of this, what's returned from this prompt for selection method? An integer. The integer that the user entered, right? When this line of code runs, get user integer, the application waits, doesn't it?
Yes.
Until the user enters something because of this command gets. All right? So let's say the user entered, I don't know, 5 for list accounts. Okay? Let's step through that. So that gets returned. So the value that's returned from this is 5. So I'm passing a value of 5 into perform main menu action. Correct? So where's perform main menu action? Here it is. So you see this method takes in a selection. It's an integer. And I use my switch case statement to say when it's 1 do this, when it's 2 do this, when it's 3 do this. Y'all seem to have a pretty firm grasp on that. So when it's 5, I list accounts. When it's 4, I initiate a money transfer. All of these are just methods. Why put all that logic in one spot? It doesn't need to all be there. Plus, things like list accounts, I can reuse. Because I need to list accounts in several places, right? In order to select an account to load, in order to select an account to transfer money, in order to select an account to transfer money to. All of those require you to show a list of accounts on the screen and then prompt them for which one they want to use. So just by making that one, which is down here, I think, yeah, I'm able to use this all over the place. So the first thing I do is I just print an empty line. Okay, that's instead of saying like print with an escape character, new line, you know. And then I showed David this earlier. This is just a standard each loop, but it's an each with an index. Okay, So when you do a standard each, all you get is this one variable right here, account, correct? And that account represents the account for that iteration, that loop, and whatever code is in this block, it's run on that account. When you say each with index, you get 2 block parameters. The first one's your account. What's the second one?
Your selection. Well, that, in that case, it's just a variable.
It's not a selection.
It's an integer, sorry.
It's an integer, but what does that integer represent?
The choice that they made.
No.
I mean, in the array, excuse me.
The position in the array. So if I had 5 accounts, the first run through, it's going to be 0 because it's 0 indexed. 0 is the first spot in the array. Second time through, it's going to be 1. Third time through, it's going to be 2. Okay? So that's the index of this account in that array. So all I have to do is print out to the screen I plus 1 to get a value that starts at 1 for a menu list, right? Do I need to move my
Curly
cursor?
bracket or a parenthesis? After-
Right here?
After the period.
Oh, this? That's a closed parenthesis. That's not syntactic, that's part of the string.
Where's the open?
There isn't one. Like I said, that's just part of the string.
Yeah, it's part of the menu.
Let me
That 1 point.
I guess let me run it. And here, I'll just do this.
Well, they'll show it if they want to.
Okay, there's our main menu, right? Now, when I'm listing those accounts, see how they lay out right here with a 1 and then a 2? That's that parenthesis you're seeing right there. So let's go back to our code. We're still down here listing accounts. Alright, so I print out that number. It's just its position in the array plus 1. Okay, we're not taking ordering into account or anything like that. And I'm printing out that short description that we made on the account class. So I'm getting back all the user's pertinent information for that account. So here's the account number. This is the name of the person who owns the account, and this is the amount of money currently in that account.
I'm curious, how'd you get the dollar sign?
I put it there.
Did I miss that?
I put it there. That wasn't something that happened automatically. That's inside the short description here. Right there.
I think I tried that one time and I had it right before the at symbol. Maybe that's
Yeah, you have to have this
in string, right?
this string interpolator right there for you to put values in it. So. All right, so that's basically how to list accounts. Like I said, we can reuse that, so I don't prompt the user for anything there. I won't prompt the user for a selection of any kind because we'll want to change that selection based on what we're trying to do, right? So what's something else we do? Well, let's say I listed accounts. I'm listing accounts, and as soon as I do, it's going back to the main menu, right? It's because that iteration finishes. And we're still running, so it prints the main menu again, and then prompts for selection again. Okay. So prompt for selection, asking the user to pick one. Which one do we want to do now?
Money transfer.
Okay. So
Take John's money away.
which number is that? That's number 4. Okay. So when I hit 4, that selection's passed into perform main menu action. Comes down here to money transfer. That's another private method. And there it is right here. Okay. I could have broken this out and cleaned it up a little bit, but I chose to kind of leave it all there so that we could see it in one spot without having to fly all over the place. So immediately, I reuse list accounts. Okay, so first thing I do is I print them to the console. And then I print an extra option, don't I? I print an option for back.
What is that called? No, that's just a string. But
It's just a string. I'm just printing out that string. It's just text.
I know with that selection, if they did enter 0, how would it bring it back? I'm sorry.
That's fine. So if I do money transfer 4, it lists all the accounts here and then shows that back. Okay? If I hit 0, I go back to the main menu. That's what you're asking?
Oh, because you're picking
How
something
does
that's
it do
not-
that?
Because you're picking something not in the array.
Let me
That's what I'm
see.
asking. Like, why is it allowing you to go backwards?
Yeah, I think there all I did was I said if they entered anything bad, go back to the main.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Alright, that's what I didn't see. I didn't see a method for back. But obviously you just called it the string.
Go for it. Oh, that's cool. Thank you, John Macy.
Oh, wow, it's pretty magical.
Ah, gestures.
Yeah, right.
Changing the world one trackpad at a time. All right. So that's that back you see there in the list. And then I'll prompt the user for some input again. I have another method called prompt user 4. Okay.
Just telling me.
And this is not asking them for a selection.
It's up.
Is it up?
Yeah, keep going.
So that's for account selection.
Right there.
Prompt user 4. Thank you. Takes in a message, right? A message is just a string. I print the message and I reuse get user input again.
So it automatically just associates the word message with string?
Is that a global? Is message a global, or is that just a parameter?
This is just a parameter.
Okay.
And what was your question?
So it automatically associates the word message with just strings?
No, it does not.
Okay.
No.
That's kind of
It,
what I was.
it's a string because I'm giving it a string right here.
Okay.
Okay? So that's the message I give it. Enter the source amount. Okay? It returns some selection. Gets returns us a string, right? Even if they entered a number. So I have to call to integer on it to turn it into an integer. And that's my selection. And then I say return if the selection is 0. Okay? What does return do? Exits the method, right? Okay? It returns some value out of the method. What am I returning here? Oh, I'm not passing anything, am I? So what do you think is going to be returned?
0.
0 is a number.
Oh. Nil.
Nil. Nil's nothing. So when I return out of that, what happens?
You start running again.
I start running again because I'm still here, right? Money transfer ended, but once I get out of this perform action, it double checks this loop and I'm still running. So I'm back at the main menu again. What if that selection was 1 for the first account though? All right. Dang it, I didn't do it. Oh well, I'll get it next time.
I'll
So-
practice with you for room, just change this with whatever tab you're on.
So, let's say I selected one for the first account. Or no, I want money from John. He's got more money. So, I select 2. That's going to be my source account. Okay? Well, it shows me another list and it asks me for the destination account. Or I can back out. All right? Let's see if I can do this. That's not it. There it is. All right. So, I'm here. I've got a selection. The user entered a selection. I know it's not 0, so it has to have been either an account or some bogus number, right? How do I know if it's an account or not? The index that's on the screen is one indexed, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not the way my array works. My array is 0 indexed, correct? So I have to subtract 1 from the user's selection to get that value out of my accounts array. So if I had said, oh, I want the first account, user entered 1, the selection minus 1 is 0, 0 is the first one in the list, gives me my source account. Right? So the first thing I do here is I check to see if source is nil. What do I do if source is nil?
Reruns the loop again.
It reruns the loop again. It returns. Why? That would be the case basically if they entered some bogus number like 56.
Oh, okay.
There is no element 56 or 55.
56.
There is no 55 in my array. My array only has 2 accounts in it. So when I ask for account 55, it gives me back nil. It says there isn't one.
And
You get nothing.
the question mark is, I'm sorry.
This is the full method name.
Source.name.
Nil question mark is the full method name.
What is that?
That checks to see if the object you're calling on, which is source right here, is it nil or not. It's going to be true or false. And so if I enter 55, obviously 54 does not exist. Okay? So yes, it's nil. So it returns. It short circuits. Okay? Well, let's say I entered 2. I did. Okay? I entered 2 here. Right? That was John's account. So it prompts me again for more input. Right? So I list the accounts again. See, I'm reusing that thing all over the place. All right? And then I display the back option again. And then I prompt the user again. And I return if the selection is 0 again. Okay? And then I say, okay, well, let's get the destination account now. It's the same code as this line right here, but I'm setting my destination account. Right? Okay? After the user enters a destination account, I want to select from John to me. I ask, how much money do you want to transfer? Right? So I prompt the user. I say, enter the amount to transfer. Turn it into an integer. And there's my amount. So then I say, okay, well, if the source account has enough money, I check it. And I say, okay, the source balance minus amount, is it greater than or equal to 0? Does it have enough funds to make this transaction? Okay? If it does, I withdraw the amount from the source and I deposit the amount in the destination.
Now, can the source and the destination be the same? Can the source and the destination be the same account?
They could, unless we built in a rule to stop it, right? I didn't want to complicate it any more than it already was. But yeah, there's a lot of banking software is a nightmare. Really. In fact, if this were a real example, there is no account in any program in the world that has a current balance. That number does not exist anywhere. Your balance is a computed property that it spits out every time you load the page to see what your online balance is, and it's an accumulation of all the transactions you've made, and it figures out a balance based on that. So there is no current balance. It's a much more sophisticated system than this.
You also have to have an ungodly firewall just to prevent anything from breaching.
Oh yeah, but that we're talking about just from a code standpoint. This is a very rudimentary example. So what happens if the source doesn't have enough money?
Then it should error.
Insufficient funds for transfer.
So this is, does the account have enough money, right? Does the source dot balance minus amount, is that greater than or equal to 0? If not, I say insufficient funds for transfer. So let's say I tried to get 300,000 from John.
Thanks, John.
Insufficient funds for transfer. Okay.
Thanks, John.
If I did John to myself and I said, okay, well, $100. All right. If I list the accounts now, the transfer took place.
Good day.
All right. Is there another one y'all want to see?
So you did you say you put that case right there, your main menu selection in a private? Did I hear you say that?
Actually, the only method that's not private is my run method. Every method below private is a private method.
Because you don't want those other methods to be used by the driver file.
Right. That's exactly the reason. I don't want them to be able to be used anywhere else.
What is the reason?
So, like, for instance, if someone were in, let's say I packaged up this accounting example without the driver file. It's just an accounting library now. Someone else can go download it off the internet and use it in their application. I wouldn't want them to give I wouldn't want to give them the ability to, I don't know, what's a good method not to want to give them the ability to do any of these really. If they called, let's see, what's a good one? One of these helpers. If they just called prompt for selection out of the blue somewhere and it hit the console and tried to ask the terminal for input willy-nilly, that's not a really good API. I don't want the driver class or any other class to be in charge of asking the user for input for the bank teller, right? I want the bank teller to govern that itself. So all the implementation details in here that the bank teller is in charge of, I don't want anybody else telling him what to do. He needs to be the one running the show. So it's exactly what you said. I don't want any of those methods to be callable from the driver class.
You want those methods to only be in that class.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what?
Are there any of these other load account, add account, remove account, any of those y'all want to see? This code is going to be up on the repo for y'all to get and play with if y'all want. So just didn't know if y'all wanted to go over anything specific in class. We're good? All right. I would like to end this part of it by saying that I would never write an application this way.
That was just 45 minutes. Remember, he's done. He's like, I'm done.
Well, the reason I want to bring that up is because even though we have an account class, we have a bank teller class, we have a driver class, our bank teller is we could rename the bank teller class to application pretty much, because that's what it does. It runs the application. Everything that goes on happens in the bank teller class. That's very procedural. Okay, that's not very object oriented. Because really, if I wanted to be very particular, I could ask, should a bank teller be able to ask the console for user input? Should a bank teller be able to print a menu to a screen? Not really. I would probably end up making a menu class. I would probably end up making a prompt class. I'd probably end up making a some kind of bank engine class that would keep the loop going.
So you would have smaller bits of code and a bunch of
Smaller bits of code broken up in more reusable chunks
and readable.
and way more
So
readable.
we could call bank teller ATM, and that would make a little bit more sense
Mhm.
as we know it.
Yep. You could
Because
call
that
it
would
ATM
prompt you
machine.
for those-
It would.
That would add.
It would. But I still wouldn't put everything inside of an ATM class is my point. Because when it boils down to it, is the ATM machine, think of it like a car, all right? Yeah, you drive a car. You drive this one entity to and from class, to and from work, to and from school, wherever, all right? But that car, that engine, isn't one massive box with every moving piece that the car has shoved in it, right? It's broken up into small interchangeable pieces. You know, if the battery goes out, you can change it. You know, if a belt breaks, you can change it. They're components that are literally kind of plug and play. You know, you pull out something that's broken, you put in something else, and you can modify a car engine. That's the way you kind of want to think about classes. So your application is the car. It's the end result, okay? But it took a lot of classes, it took a lot of parts that did their own job very well to make the car run. Kind of get my drift?
How long would a typical like file, whether it's a class or a driver thing, how long would the code be, or would you want it to be?
That depends. I mean, I've literally had classes that were 3 lines, and I've had classes that were a couple hundred. But usually, if you get to a point in a class where your code is 100, 150 lines long, chances are you've got some things you need to refactor. Because classes typically shouldn't be that big. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but I'd say those are edge cases.
Well, it's good to know, because if you can limit yourself to that number, then that kind of forces you to have to.
You can, but you have to make it kind of a soft limit, you know. Like there's a lot of refactoring I could do here. Like there's repetition that I have here. Like I repeat this entire chunk of code twice in that one method. I do this exact procedure again right here, don't I? I just call it destination here and I call it source here. Right? I could make that a method. And then call it twice from right there.
I remember that now from the previous class about making a module that just instead of just repeating yourself.
Yeah. And so methods are one way to refactor your code and clean it up. Objects are another. Classes are another. If you've got a series of methods that keep repeating themselves that kind of scream, wow, this needs to be its own entity, then chances are, if you make that class, give it its responsibilities, it'll clean some stuff up.
I understand that we did this for, obviously for learning, but in that instance that you're saying, would you then put multiple classes, because you'd have multiple save files that are your classes, and you would have to inherit possibly, or you still wouldn't have to?
In this example,
No, not this example.
Okay, well,
I guess if you had those many parts, like the car,
yeah.
if you had the battery class, if you had the starter class.
Inheritance is never a requirement
Okay.
of any application. Inheritance is a means to an ends. It's a tool. Okay, you can use inheritance when the situation fits. In fact, when we're in Rails, dealing with that, and we'll be starting with Rails this week. You're never going to be able to get away from inheritance, because you'll get my meaning when we get there. You'll never be able to get away from it. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying it's there. Okay? I can't see what time it is.
You want to talk about like composition, like how cars composed of its
Yeah.
constituent parts?
Okay.
Battery.
So does a battery inherit from a carburetor?
No.
No. Does a car inherit from a battery? Car has a battery. Car might have a carburetor, depends on the type, right? Does a car inherit from a fan belt? But a car has these parts, right? Okay.
It
That's
would inherit from a factory.
no, it wouldn't.
That's not a good way to think of it.
No, that's
Factory
not.
is a whole other.
The factory would be a whole other class.
Well, it's kind of like how.
What
I
does
guess
it?
I was thinking of a father son.
Vehicle.
Well,
Being
A
the-
factory,
the
if a factory had a
would
baby, it would have another factory though, right?
it wouldn't have a car.
Oh, okay. I like the way you're
Ask yourself this question: what traits does a car have in common with a factory?
Metal.
I'm
You can have a wood factory.
I'm serious. Well, what traits does it have that a factory has? Now, a car class and a truck class could both inherit from a vehicle class. They're both vehicles. Okay. A baseball class and a basketball class could both inherit from a ball class.
So basically, the way to think of it is like classes only inherit from each other if they're just iterations of the same thing.
Is a relationship. If you can literally put it in a sentence and say, a car is a factory, then it's a suitable candidate for inheritance. But a car is not a factory. A car is a vehicle.
Is that simple?
It's that simple. That's a good way. That's a good way of thinking about it. Okay. And so all the traits that all of those children classes have in common, you can put in the parent class. So all vehicles can move. Maybe you have a move method in your vehicle class. All of your other classes would inherit that method. Okay? Does a vehicle necessarily have tires? Mm-mm. You could have a boat. A boat's a vehicle. Plane's a vehicle.
Gotcha.
She got me.
Tank is a vehicle.
She got me.
A tank has treads, though.
A tank, a tank has treads. That's a good. You can have multiple classifications of them. Like, okay, there's a vehicle. An airplane might inherit from vehicle. Okay, but then you have specific types of planes. Each of those might have their own class. Okay, it can go as far as you want it to go, but that becomes hairy very quickly. Because let's say we have that vehicle class, and we do have several generations of subclasses, okay? And then I do have that move method in that vehicle class, and I decide to change it.
Take a change.
It changed for every class that inherits from it, doesn't it?
Yes. Because you're just. Oh, if you made that car automated, the move was now automated by Siri. Now all your other vehicles have now become automated, but that's not what you wanted. I got you.
That's not what you wanted. So inheritance isn't always a candidate. Even if you have shared functionality. Sometimes that shared functionality needs to be abstracted out into its own class, and then different classes can get that shared functionality by using this other class, just like we did with a count. Okay? Other times, things like cars are composed of different parts. All right? A battery in a car has a job. We could have a battery class. It knows how to carry out its own functions. You can charge a battery. You can deplete a battery's charge. All right. A car, we already said, doesn't inherit from battery. Battery doesn't inherit from car, but a car has a battery. So it would have a property, an attribute, an instance variable of a battery. Okay? Could be any number of different kinds of batteries. But composition is a way of making sure that you don't gain everything through this hierarchical chain of inheritance that can be brittle in certain circumstances, and you still get a lot of refactored clean code, or factored clean code, not refactored clean code. But do you kind of see what I'm saying?
Multiple classes will benefit you better than inheriting.
Each
all the
class,
time.
there's a concept. We're going to talk about solid probably Thursday. Okay, and that's going to blow a lot of people's minds,
Mind-blowing.
because it's a little bit on the more complex side of things I want to talk about in this class. But there's a couple of points in solid that are very important that I want you to know now.
Can't wait.
And
This is your car, right? Your car class. Car has a battery. Car has an engine. Car has wheels.
hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. It might have something else, but the point is, a car is not a battery. A battery is not a car, right? It's just composed of these things.
And better yet, the car doesn't have to know how a wheel works. A car doesn't have to know how a battery works. We call that, and we talked about this before, I think it was in class 1 or 2, a black box. You know? It should be, a good class, a good system should be closed. You shouldn't have to care how it works. You should have a defined interface to interact with it. Okay, those are your public methods. All right. But its implementation details and all that kind of stuff should be hidden from the surface. Most people probably don't know exactly how a battery works when they do go to Walmart and buy one for their car or something like that. Most people who drive cars don't know how one works anymore. You know? You don't have to, though. You have to know how to interface with one. But that's the public interface. The controllers you're using in a car are the public methods that that car has.
So the only thing that would be inheriting from battery is if you're writing code for like a lithium battery, something like that, or a very specific kind of battery.
Sure. And there's other ways of even getting around having to do inheritance in that case. We'll talk about some more of that when we can have better examples to show, probably using databases. So, but anyway, that feel composition covered okay right now? All right.
Is it time for break?
Why don't we go ahead and break so that we can get some coffee, and then
Yeah.
when we come back, we'll do our we'll do a quick review of what we talked about last week, and we'll go into some new stuff.